All righty, it is 7 o'clock and we have people here, so let's get this party started. Greetings, everyone. I'd like to call to order the March 4th, 2026 edition of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Dakota, can we have a roll call?
All right. Committee Member Castillo-White.
Present.
Chair Kester.
Present.
Committee Member Harrington.
Present.
Committee Member Minkoff. Committee Member Long.
Here.
Committee Member Rizzo. Committee Member Terrell. Committee Member Barney.
Present.
Vice Chair Stephenson. Committee Member Knight.
Present.
And Committee Member Sanchez.
Present.
We have quorum confirmed.
Yes. We have 8 folks in attendance, which is quorum.
Excellent. All right, so with that, I will invite people as they are able to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, I'll move to agenda item 2. Actually, probably I should ask Dakota, is there anything else we need, any last minute stuff we need to add to the agenda?
Not that I am aware of. It's pretty stacked agenda.
Right. I have a couple things that I found an email that we'll probably need to tack on to the end, but we can deal with that in committee comments. So agenda item 2, public comment on non-agenda items. I invite this time members of the public to comment on non-agenda items. We'll start on Zoom. Paul?
No, nothing.
Thank you. Sam, you're here. You have a specific line item on our agenda, so we'll pause for a moment on you, and if there is seeing no other members of the public we'll move on to agenda item 3, review and approval of the January 7th, 2026 meeting minutes. Did everybody have a chance to get those and read through them? And do we have any comments or changes that need to be made? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the January 7th, 2026 Citizen Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Shelby Stephenson.
Second, Tiffany Long.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And Dakota, did you see that Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. All right, so that carries with one opposition. So we move on to agenda item 4, discussion items. And we will start off with Mr. Barnett.
Hi, I'm Sam Barnett, and I've lived in Troutdale almost for a little more than.
One moment.
Wait a minute. So maybe we could just give a lay
Well,
of
sure. You guys invited me here, so I'm just going to sit down and be quiet. What do you want?
You cracked me up, Sam. No, I just wanted to introduce you and say welcome back. I had reached out to you on behalf of the group here to continue the conversation that you brought to us several months back. And at that time, you brought up a very important topic that was important to you, but you also sparked a little bit of dialogue with us. Like, what do we do when things like this happen? Should we just say, okay, thank you for bringing that, go to council, or does the CAC want to trigger a process by which we would then consider taking the matter to the city council, assuming that it met some criteria and we voted to agree upon that? Does that sound correct, everyone? Does that sound pretty good? Okay. So the reason.
Yes, and in addition, to take the opportunity to ask you what you would like in terms of an outcome or response or your public comment.
Exactly. So then, yes, so that next step is us working along that and then calling you back in so that, we could then hear, like you said, hear what specifically your items were so that we could then better articulate that as well to this council. So basically, I believe what I'm saying is that we think that your item important, and we also want to take it to council. We wanted you to come back to help further describe it for us.
Thank you. I'm going to test every one of you to see so sure. I'm happy to answer any questions or review back of what we discussed however many months ago or whatever you.
My recollection, you had some comments regarding changes around the city that you had seen. And my recollection, you believed it would be important for the city to potentially have a liaison with the county so that we can have input or at least be aware of the changes that would impact our community that come from the outside. Does that sound?
You said it a lot better than I could ever. Thanks for that, Will. Yeah, and that was several months ago, and what spurred that was all of the work being done on Buxton. When you all live in Troutdale, anyway, and it was very dangerous. We had some ice in there, and it didn't seem like the county was being babysat. I don't mean that. Who watches over the county when they're on our streets working and doing things unsafely? Who would the city call if they noticed? That kind of thing, and how were these things not noticed? The roller coaster at 6th, they got 5th and 4th right, and 3rd they fixed. But it's still I would never ever ask them to come back to fix it because that would be another year. But it should never have happened in the first place, But because it's been a couple of months, hopefully some of you have had the opportunity to just kind of really just paying attention and looking around. And unfortunately, I'm doing a lot more of that these days. Help it. For instance, coming up on 257th, up on 25th, which is on the east side of 257th. There's a little park there in a grove of firs, which some of you might be familiar with, and a block up is the same thing. It's a corner, probably a double lot, maybe a triple lot. It's a city park. There's nothing in it. They do maintain it, they mow it. But wouldn't it be nice if we could put a picnic table under a tree? They count that as one of the parks, we tout. Troutdale has how many parks? 40? Do any of you know?
Yeah, it's I want to say it's 21.
Yeah, I thought it was, well, whatever it was impressed me. But those two count as parks.
Well, in reference to the ones that are right off 257th, I think that what you're looking at might be owned by neighborhood associations, because there are lots of patches of grass that the city doesn't own, and it's owned by a neighborhood association. Is there brick right next to those? I feel like I know which ones you're talking about, I'm not positive.
There's a sign. I'm sure that there's reasons, and it could be very well.
A lot of our small parks were part of the housing, what do they call that? The housing developments that went in, and then they didn't want to have, homeowners fees anymore, and so I think they sold them to the city. So that's why there's so many little parks right in the middle of, like, there's one that doesn't have anything in it. I think we're putting a pump house in it.
Well, none of them.
Empty and
Most of them don't have
right
anything.
in the
That's
middle.
my point, and that was a poor example. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
I mean, what about when the county's coming in? So what happened after they finished or were finishing? They weren't quite finished on Buxton, and they came into Sweetbriar, at Sweetbriar Lane and Sweetbriar Court, which is at the bottom of 42nd Drive, I guess. I'm on 42nd Circle. And they tore up all, you've heard this before, but hopefully some of you weren't here. It's pretty exciting. They tore up all four corners of this nice residential neighborhood that had already had wheelchair ramps, very nice, and they had the yellow non-slip things like they have on all the other ones. Nothing wrong with them at all. And they tore it up for a couple of months and let it sit, and then finally they did all four of them the way that they're doing it everywhere else with the curbs on them, which don't understand how that's any safer for a wheelchair. It seems to have two extra opportunities to fall off a curb. But anyway, it wasn't necessary. Come to find out that they had extra money that they didn't spend on Buxton or on safety improvements on the east side. So they just went into the neighborhood and tore it up and gave us new funky looking wheelchair ramps. And it's the closest off of Sweetbriar. You go up Troutdale Road, make a left. It's the closest. It's like, where should we do this? Oh, the very first one. Come on. So so David, what are they doing at the bottom of 42nd? Excuse me, pardon me. Let me back up. So I asked the mayor if he knew anything about that. So they started, well, even before they tore it up, they had it all striped. Oh, I don't know. And finally I found out when they were doing it. Nobody knows. They just came in and did it because they could. They had extra money to put somewhere. And I think that if we had a liaison in the city, somebody that they work together with, this guy in Troutdale might say, okay, well, why don't we put that money over here where we would really appreciate it more if it falls into the category of which they need to spend. They have their quotas, but come on. I just don't think half of it is worth, I don't think there's enough attention being paid to what's going on around here. I know that we're busy, everybody's busy, and there's a lot of things going on in the city, and I know that staff is busy. But let me ask you this. In the several months since I've been here, did you look around at all? Did anybody else notice things that just don't seem right? And if you didn't, and if it really seems like everything's fine, then it's just me. And I'm willing to accept that. Because as I said, I do pay much more attention than I ever have. But to see them tear up Sweetbriar and tell me that, and learn subsequently that it's just because they had some money to throw someplace. They hadn't spent enough here. Let's go tear up a neighborhood and give them 88 ramps. That's kind of the deal. And going back, it's been half a year now probably since they finished Buxton, but that was an atrocity. I cannot say that enough. I was out there at night. I was out there putting up barricades and trying to forget the cones. Who for the county is babysitting their flaggers that are falling asleep? Several occasions, not paying attention, steering me into traffic. And I don't expect that to change. But, the smaller things, I think that we could have somebody in the city, maybe somebody that might already be on staff that's not overwhelmed, that might be a good communication person when things come up in Troutdale that are a significant project to coordinate off of. I don't want to put you all back to work on a big project, but I was on the CAC when we started the parks registering the online part. What do you call it? Reservations. It would be nice if a citizen in Troutdale could go out to a calendar, and there might be one, where they can find out what's going on and what's going to be shut down in the next couple of months due to the county or the city. but I'm getting in the weeds. I don't know if I've made my point, but I just wish that, I hope I made my point. And I don't know if it's worth it, but what I said last time might help is that for 20 years, I've been noticing this stuff. 20 years. Can't believe it's been that long. But I've been complaining about it for that long. And what I've heard for 20 years, and I'm really tired of it. Does anybody remember? You will this time. It's the county. We can't do anything. It's the county. We can't do anything. From one mayor to a councilor to mayor to a council, it's the county. Roll over, play dead, let them do what they want. I don't think that's acceptable. You know, especially with the reputation Troutdale is getting, and I think we need to be a little bit more responsible with who we're letting in here to do what. I should stop there. Unless you have any questions. Whew. How did I do?
Go ahead, Rebecca. Great.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and making sure that it's on the public record. I guess I have a question, clarifying question. You asked several times in this testimony and the previous one months ago that you were seeking to understand if there already exists a liaison between the city of Troutdale and the county in which citizens can communicate safety concerns that would then get directed to the county. And so my question is, are you seeking to ask if that person exists? And if so, how is the communication pathway in order to be able to communicate with them? And additionally, perhaps get responses back on answers of why is this being developed, right? You've said that very much. Why is the county putting money into this and so forth? So are you seeking a pathway to communicate and then seeking a way in which to receive that clarification and answers back?
I think it would be a rare occasion where a citizen would have to go to the liaison and say, why are they doing this? If the liaison is doing their job the way that I would envision it, which would be the county says, hey, John, we're going to be in here for 6 months. Here's the plans. And this guy's got to know something that's going on, you know. Okay, yeah. And this, okay. And then something goes wrong. The liaison should see that. You know, we don't, our problem is we don't have our own inspectors anymore. We use Gresham's now, right? We don't have an inspector under our roof on staff, correct? So I don't know, the liaison should see these things coming before they happen or while they're happening. Or, well, let's not use the mistakes that they made, the roller coaster. Let's use Troutdale. Let's use the ramps. Jose from the county goes to John at Troutdale and says, we've got $160,000 left over. We don't know where to put it. What would you like us to do with it? And then the liaison goes to whoever, or, you know, he's a little bit more direct than just come in and tear up some sidewalks and put it wherever you want, you know. I guess if a citizen had a problem with something going on with the county like I do, I don't think that issue would really exist if the county and the city were working together. I don't think I'd be here. Follow me? I mean, I think that things would have been oversaw a little bit more carefully. I think things would have been noticed because somebody was paying a little bit more attention, you know, and I think there is no dialogue that I'm aware of right now. I mean, they send reports, county does, I know, sends plans. I don't think they go anywhere. Just, okay. You know, should we really talk about, you know, I think I don't know, there might be a communication problem between Troutdale and Metro as well. When Metro comes in and shuts down Cochrane twice to correct something that, as far as I understand, they kind of forgot they needed to do the first time. Maybe somebody could have stepped in and said, well, aren't you forgetting to do this? Why don't we do this the first time? Instead of come back 3 years later, shut it down for another year. I mean, I don't know all the facts on that, but it was something along those lines. And I don't want to get Metro involved. I'm specifically speaking of somebody that might be able to communicate with the county and likewise back and forth and just work a little closer together with the city of Troutdale when they come in, as opposed to just really not paying much attention to what's going on. And well, okay, it's the county. They're going to come in and I'm sure it'll be much better when they're done. You know, look at Troutdale Road right now. Oh my goodness gracious. You know, and I don't want to be that guy that's going to come in every week and tell you where the potholes are. Thanks for showing up, Victoria. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you for clarifying that.
The question. Dakota, can you address, I know we have a lot of different sources of communication. We have Facebook, we have the paper. Are things usually notified to the public as to what is going to occur on the roads and such?
If there's going to be a shutdown, yeah, either the county or Metro notifies, and we try to get it up on the website or on social media. Kevin tries to put that up whenever we get the notices, hey, this will be shut down for this day, or they're doing maintenance on this. Depends on the level. Usually it's larger items that require a shutdown that will get notified.
And then who works or communicates with the county as per like what occurred on Upston Road and the changes and those type of things?
Usually that's through Public Works, but our director, Erica, does have a standing meeting with the county once every third Thursday of the month. They meet, and it's for open communication to discuss different things that are going on. If they have questions for us, we have questions for them. Concerns that we've heard, we express to them as well. So that's usually where a lot of that communication comes through. But if there's specific road-wise, usually they work with Public Works.
And then do they give, so then Public Works is our liaison, do they communicate with them and navigate or come up with some ideas? Do they let us play ball with them as well? Or do
I
they?
can't speak to that.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I would say the closest quote-unquote liaison would be Erica, because she does have a meeting with them every week or every month. I don't think Public Works has standing meetings. They just work together on different projects. If they need to shut down a road, if they need to do this, if they need to do that. It's going to, if they need a right-of-way permit, if it's, their right-of-way, they can make changes. Typically, they'll try to see what's in our TSP if they can, if they're going to do something. Hey, we need this to align with our TSP.
That's the transportation plan.
Yes.
Okay, and then do you know if they ask Erica's input on when they do come up with ideas? Is it, I know you say she communicates with them, but do you know if they take consideration in what she thinks may or may not be best, or let her ideas have some weight or consideration?
I'm not sure. I'm not in the meetings,
Okay.
so I'm not sure what they talk about or how it's formatted.
Okay, thanks. See, I'm trying to get to the.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sorry, okay, okay, because, because I know we have Explore Troutdale, we have the Facebook page, which is good, and they seem to do alert, we have a meeting, this is what's, just different things, so there's a lot of communication going on there, so just trying to figure out, again, do we have a say, do we not have a say? Is the county just, it is what they say, and I guess we wouldn't know that unless we did talk to Erica, as far as
Well,
I know she's a fine planner, I really respect her, but it would be good to know when we, as citizenry or as a CAC, is there say, are there some things that are a little bit more high alert, and some things that are just like, oh yeah, nobody's gonna mind, you're just doing upkeep and doing your job as a county, and then what are those things that we do get to have input in, and at what level?
Okay, so I'll leave you with a hypothetical, a true hypothetical. All right? So if I'm coming south on 257th, and I cross the new crosswalk with the flashing light, south part of the field at Reynolds, that crosses 257. There are two more unmarked crosswalks with ramps, just within an eighth of a mile. So hypothetical. If I was driving up and down and I noticed those, they're not striped, but they're obviously, why aren't they striped and what are they for and why are they there? Who would I ask? And I'd be surprised if not one of you know what I'm talking about, but I guess I wouldn't be. Anyway, if you follow me, this is 257th. This is Reynolds High School. Past that new crosswalk. There's two other crosswalks coming off the curbs, ramps on both sides of 257th that look like crosswalks, but they're not striped. And it's a little confusing to me, and I'm wondering if it might ever be confusing to some citizen too that's standing there to cross the street and some stripes and nobody stopping. You'll notice it now. Well, thanks again. I hope I'm not just being a complainer.
So, would we then, as a group, want to consider sending a formal question to Erica or ask her to come to the meeting and chat about it? I mean, I don't know if this is a council thing or if it's, let's find some more understanding or kind of questioning that now. If we do kind of know that Erica has a monthly meeting, like maybe it's, hey, how do those go? What can we do? Is there anything that we can do to kind of further this relationship to make it a little more back and forth than so one-sided potentially?
I second the invitation to have Erica come so that we can learn more about what her relationship is, what that looks like. And I actually would love to ask, how we can, if she is that touch point, how she would like us to communicate certain Troutdale citizens' comments that we hear here and make sure that they get to her in the way that would be best for her. Yeah.
Would it be appropriate if, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, if I'm allowed to ask Paul, who's quite experienced, just for his short take, if he has one? Am I allowed to ask Paul, do you have a take on this, Paul? Am I allowed to do that?
Public comment is pretty much welcome at any time. So, Paul, any comments on this? Because I know you have significant history between Planning Commission and a number of other experiences.
I don't have anything specific to what Sam was referring to, but I actually did have a question for Sam. If I could, I'd be curious to see what his take is on the intersection of Historic Highway and Buxton and the free right turn in particular.
That three-way stop?
Well, it's not a three-way stop if you're turning right.
2.5-way stop.
Oh. I don't see that I never noticed it causing any problems for anybody. And you think it should be a three-way stop?
Yeah, I do. I think others do also. Our community resource officer thinks it's a really bad design the way it is. Also, I was actually going to take this up with PSEAC tomorrow. There's 3 more food carts going into Highland, which is going to create even more pedestrian traffic, trying to get across Buxton at 2nd. And last time I tried to cross at 2nd, at evening rush hour, the cars just kept on coming down Troutdale Road going south.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, it's just nonstop rush hour, and nobody was stopping for pedestrians.
Yeah, well, Troutdale Road's gonna need speed bumps pretty soon. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right, Paul. All the traffic coming up off Columbia, going up Buxton there, yeah, and in a rush, not having to stop with people crossing. I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, good thought. All right, well, thank you, Paul. And thank you all, everybody.
Sam, if we end up having that meeting with Erica and having her come in, would you like to be invited back to that?
Sure. I won't have to talk to this much.
You can talk as much as you like.
All right. For your visibility and questions to ask at pretty much any time. And sort of a secondary question is this just at sort of at a higher level, kind of the nature of the relationship between the city of Troutdale and Multnomah County as it relates to infrastructure? Is that something that you would like us as a committee to just to sort of bullhorn or raise in front of city council for visibility purposes? Is that something that you think would be valuable?
Yes, I do. I think it would be valuable to the city to have that person for oversight. Good morning. Neighborhood associations, when they're not treating the citizens of Troutdale right, and they're not responding, and their fences are getting torn up, and nobody wants to fix them. Neighborhood associations within the city of Troutdale does a whole different, and I'm going to stop, I promise. Well, I have a friend who's asking me, they're not getting. Can a citizen call the city of Troutdale and complain on their neighborhood association? That's a tricky one, I think, too, but I don't know how to answer that. So we're talking liaison, it's all, not really that, but you're going to hear from him pretty soon, too. I invited him to come tonight. Next time.
The short answer to that question is anybody who wants to come talk to us absolutely can. If it's a dispute or something between an individual and a particular association that is outside of the city, that gets a little dicey, but certainly, but they can absolutely come and raise
I'll encourage him.
questions and comments and issues with us.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, Tim. So, kind of leading in, thank you, Sam. Leading in to the next item on our discussion list, Will so kindly drafted a checklist of items for evaluating things like this to kind of give some guardrails around what we do next. So I guess I'll open that up. It's been a while since that went out via email and it wasn't included in the packet.
I think Chris Ann must have missed that.
Not a big deal.
That's fine. I'll share it on the screen.
But I guess I'll open it up to the group as far as comments or questions or application of said process. And Will, if you, it's your construction, so
I
kick us off.
take partial responsibility, but not all, because this was definitely put together with AI. And so it kind of scraped it all together and put it into a place to start from. And yeah, being lazy, but I think it did a pretty darn good job. It would save us a ton of time. And
You know which
so,
one, though.
That's why I didn't get it.
point being, this is just a rough framework. We can look it over. I haven't done a full gone through on it. I don't think it's everything we need is in here. It might be too much. Anyway, it was just a starting point and a skeleton to start with.
Thank you.
Personally, I think it's a darn good start. As I was going through it, I was sort of checking off boxes as Sam was talking. It definitely, not everything that is in this list will apply to every situation. I think it's pretty inclusive, and can definitely provide some of the structure that I think this group has been asking for, as far as like I said, putting guardrails around what we do next.
Go back to the top. I would recommend that you put in there agenda item if applicable, or agenda item or topic. So then later on, if we want to reference this at any time, if we like store these or keep these, then, you know, if it was like chickens or, having chickens or whatever, even though it wasn't an agenda, we have that heading.
Yeah.
What the issue was.
Chris?
Actually, I'm a little confused on that one, because I get the topic part, but I thought public comment had to be on non-agenda items.
CAC, as I understand it, this is some sort of some emails that I was going back and forth with Paul on, and those of you that have been doing this far longer than I have can keep me honest. We tend to take public comment on all things, both non-agenda and agenda items. And if my thought is that even if it's an agenda item, and we get significant public comment, then that may be something that is worth going through this process and elevating separately to council. It's just a thought. Will?
Yeah, I would also agree with that, and just to kind of give you guys my concept on it, I've always kind of felt like we worked really hard to have that roundtable type discussion where, hey, what I saw here when Sam asked Paul a question and Paul asked Sam a question, I was like, that's really cool. I like that sort of style. So yeah, I would 100% agree that, anytime, anywhere, come on, hop on in.
I like that too.
Yeah, it was fun.
And since we are not typically under the same kind of quasi judicial process restrictions as a group like Planning Commission, so we don't necessarily need to be quite as strict.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that clarification. As I was preparing for this meeting, I was looking at other processes and procedures set up by other, committee bodies, City of Troutdale as examples and things like that. And it seemed like it fell under what you're talking about, a very rigid, structured, where the committee members were actually within their rules of engagement were clearly denied the opportunity to engage in dialogue with the commentator. And so I'm glad that we have looser rules, and so that we can ask clarifying questions, we can, engage a little bit more. I appreciate that. I love this format. I think it would help us if we identify and make sure that there is a specific member or person or who that is, to make sure that they're assigned to write this down, and make sure that it's in a space in here, making sure that we have room to put the issue, the agenda topic. It's just a little small line, but how do we put the notes, so we make sure that we have clarification and a time to clarify, read back to the commentator to make sure that they can clarify that what we're writing in there is captured correctly from their perspective.
Something, Victoria? Any other thoughts?
Keep scrolling.
Yeah, I don't feel like I got that.
Number 2.
Chris?
Actually, maybe I'm jumping ahead, because the thing I was gonna say was on number 2.
Yeah, the consent and public records review.
I was just looking at the bottom, and I was wondering about the bottom part where it asks redaction needed, since it looks like that's already addressed in the third bullet point of the first part. Seems perhaps a little redundant.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that probably is. Or, actually, well, my reading of that would be if there's any redaction in addition to the personal information. But you're probably right, it is a little redundant.
Also, could I look at this?
Feel free.
Oh, I didn't realize it was still going.
I'm just gonna slowly scroll through and then we can go back,
Okay.
So that everybody get a chance to just kind of read through.
I think number 5 would be that spot to kind of summarize the comment from the community member.
Probably a few more lines.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, both that and again, what that number 5 says to me is both a combination of, could be a combination of what is the commenter saying, but what is the consensus, positive, negative, mixed opinion of this group on said topic, because that would make a difference.
So clarifying if they're separated. The first one is the public citizen comment, and then number
Yes.
5 is us, our
What
summation.
do we think of this?
Okay.
Because when in an occasion where we're passing along something to council, it might be useful for the counselors to know this is any potential divides that might exist between the opinions expressed by the citizenry versus what the committee was saying in deliberations. Twyla?
I'm just wondering then if we should rename that one like committee, topic, and position.
Topic and committee position.
Or maybe it's just committee position. 'cause
Or just
we already
committee
have the
position,
topic.
yeah, but clarifying the title is probably wise.
Keep wanting to scroll back up on this, and it doesn't.
Scroll back up.
I'm curious if, no, I don't know why, but my finger wants to do it myself. Where it says number 6, advisory group action. So in this instance with Sam, we're not taking any of these actions, but our actions would be to bring in Erica. So should we have an other? So that we can write in what we're going to do, like a other and a line, so that if it's not one of those 4, we have something else? Because at this point, our action, after talking with him and finding out what he wants us to do, we're interested in getting more information, and we're doing that by asking Erica to come talk to us about her relationship, the relationship that she has with the county, right? So that's not one of
Right.
our
Or just
options.
adding a checkbox, basically saying, further information gathering
Other
or other or
Yeah.
something, yeah. But then, and this is along those lines, and also bringing this back to Sam's topic, is and this is why I specifically asked him that, my question about, would he like us to raise this to council? Is what are people's thoughts about doing exactly that in addition to, or do we want to get some information back from our planning director first and then go to council? Or do sort of a multi-pronged approach?
I was, as he was talking, and I was thinking about the letters that I get in the mail talking to me about like construction and such on I-84. What came up in my head was, I wonder if there's something, perhaps another layer that we're not aware of. So I started looking, and there, I love the idea of next steps of bringing our person in, but it looks like they do have a county ombudsperson, and this is their kind of role. So that might be an interesting person to learn more about also, and when committees might pull them in if there were questions or issues around projects or that sort of thing.
That's certainly a possibility, and like another one of the things that I was digging up is to see how public the public comment process was for county commission meetings. And there is a form online for submitting public comment to our county commissioners, which have whatever expectations that one has of that. But yeah, that was another thing I was kind of looking up on the side. Shelby?
This is Shelby. I was thinking, well, that's a good idea, but I was thinking maybe that person that Erica's meeting with the county already, why isn't that person involved in the loop if they're part, if that job is part of the communications or whatever? That should be.
My understanding, and this is colored from sort of my nonprofit work, but my understanding of an ombudsperson's role is they tend to be not involved in day-to-day operations, but are more specifically involved in conflict resolution. So the ombuds office would not really get involved unless there was a complaint. But daily operations, ombuds tends not to get involved. Now, is that how Multnomah County Ombuds works? I can't say. But my experience and the conversations that I've had with my own ombudsperson, as far as what their best practices tend to be, seem to be along those lines. Anyone else? Rebecca?
To respond to your question, I think at this time, I would prefer to speak to Erica first before going to city council. At this time, that would be.
Victoria?
Is that Sarah?
Oh, the ombudsperson? This is just a website. It doesn't have a name. It talks about the program and how to get in contact with them, but no picture or name. Is that somebody you know? That is.
Well, Sarah's the one that, about 257th.
That's right.
That came and discussed it all with us. She came to a few committees I asked her to, and she came. She was very informative. But then we got to the point where they put out their plan, remember? I don't know if you talked about this with Sam. And we were upset about aspects of it, including some of the crosswalks. And we contacted Montgomery County and they didn't respond. We took it to city council. They wrote a letter, the mayor signed it, remember? Sent it, and we still never received any response. And I think our representatives, state representatives were also contacted.
I believe you're right. This was done from the public safety standpoint. We were the ones that did all this.
And I don't know what to say because we never heard anything back. Nothing. And they just went ahead without further discussion, which really disappointed me because we've got so many people involved. I mean, Sarah's more spokesperson and an informational person, so she couldn't do anything about it. But I mean, we did take next steps. Now, next steps to when you don't hear back, I mean, we might need that too.
I will say this was public safety. We did it, and that, and what Victoria's bringing up, we sent comments about 257. We didn't really get any input or any say hearing in advance on Buxton. Since Sam brought up that, I'm just clarifying that it was all, we did stuff about 257 and screamed and tried to get people's attention, but it didn't seem to matter.
I've got a quick question. Which representatives, do you remember, were contacted, and do you know if they responded at all?
I believe it was Chris Gorsick's office that, and the city manager, Ray Young, is the one that contacted after he wrote a letter. We went to city council and we presented our concerns about this.
Do you know if his office responded or he responded at all?
I don't remember what. I don't remember. It seems like he must have responded, but he just didn't seem to care what we had to say on it.
Maybe it'd be really nice to know when a county has an idea and an inception and then something that they want to go forward, to find out when is that time, if there is public comment, and at what level, you know, while they're not like when it's all said and done and packaged and the funds are already allocated and it's already basically, you know, sometimes we're probably, but Erica could tell us that we're already told what will occur. I've, in the past, used to go to some of the commissioner, is that the right?
County commission, yeah.
County commission meetings as it pertained to different subjects. When it was in their purview to gather information and then make some decisions. So it probably would be good to find out when it is appropriate. America might be able to answer that. When can, you know, possibly have an input, at least if we know what that process is and then somebody comes to us, then we can at least let them know when they have time to be able to participate in that conversation before it's sealed. It's a done deal.
I guess maybe that kind of gets another question going in my head. Is the county actually going through a public involvement process with these, or are they just saying this is what we're doing and sending out mailers? Are we the ones that might need to say, hey, this is state mandate, you know, you guys have a responsibility? And maybe they are, maybe we're the city or we are not taking advantage of the opportunity to engage. So I just like more clarity on that as well.
I don't know where I saw it, but I ended up on, there's a Multnomah County Advisory Group, and there's 2 positions open, and they're in East County. And so I was almost thinking that it would be great for representation at that level from somebody from our community. And it sounds like it's very similar to what we do here, but at the county level. So I believe applications for that, or in a couple weeks. But I saw that and I just thought, that would be great to have some representation on from somebody from within our community. And they specifically said, where I saw it on, that they were looking for people from East County because they had the other areas covered, so.
Shall we? Is that the transportation?
No, it's,
Something else.
let me,
Because I believe that one of our city councilors is on,
yes, there's that one.
there's the transportation one. I don't know if they're getting enough communication, but there is the city there are, the councilors get appointed to
Yeah, there's.
committees, certain county committees.
Yeah, this one is citizens.
Okay,
They
so
want
this is
citizens, yeah.
Rebecca?
So it sounds like there's another touch point that we can, put on our list in order to be able to communicate out citizens' comments. Do we have, within our documents as a committee, a list of these liaisons, these contact points that we can reference? And then perhaps on this checklist, we can add, who are we filtering this to and for what reason?
I don't believe that's in the binders.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not, but
It's all ready, like, available information online. Because every city, for the most part, has like a CAC, county has a CAC. Some go even, a step further and have very specific CACs, depending on certain topics. Like what you were talking about is the East Multnomah County Transportation Committee, or a MUCTUC. There's also a MUCTUC TAC, which a MUCTUC is formed from elected officials, and then that are appointed. Right. And so, like, there's a bunch of different committees depending on what there are. So there's a MUCTUC, TPAC, which is Transportation Planning Action Committee, I think. Most are transportation-based. MTAC, TSAP. Those are the main ones that I'm involved in, but those are all transportation-based. For citizen-wise, we don't. We have to, just like someone would have to look up ours, just to see when they're meeting, what the topics are on the agenda. But we don't have a specific list of all of
that. Victoria?
For 257th, they did have lots of public comment. Now, Buxton, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I heard they were gonna work on it, but I never heard any public comment.
There's a difference when, like the county or even in the city, there's different types of requirements for different types of projects. If it's going to impact, if it's going to have major traffic concerns, 257th, obviously, and they were also changing lane widths, adding crosswalks and lights, that required a lot more public engagement with that process. Buxton, they were updating the corners for ADA to meet current and new ADA standards. So those didn't require public comment. That's a requirement from the state. So I'm not sure if they did. That was kind of going on right when I was starting, like, relatively new into the position. So I'm not sure if they did any sort of public comment on that. But typically for that type of project, they won't be doing a whole bunch of public comment. They'll just notify you that there'll be some traffic delays as they're doing construction, and they'll just say what the construction is. But that's usually just notifying you, hey, this is a project. Usually those are planned out for years in advance. Then when they get the funding, they move forward with the project, capital improvement project. And so when they have extra funding, or if they finish the project under budget, well, they have to use it because that's usually, typically it's grant money. So you want to use up as much of the grant money as you possibly can. So that's why when you go out again, you're like, hey, we used that whole, say, $100,000. Now we're gonna need $150,000 for the next one. And it's more likely that when if you get a $100,000 grant, use 80, and like, well, no, you did it under budget last time. You don't need the full. So typically that's why if they finish what they scoped out, they'll try to divvy out that to complete multiple projects that might have been outside of the scope. And so even if it was notified, they might not have been notified of those certain projects because now they're just trying to use up the remaining amount of money within the grant or federal government funding that was applied to it.
So we would have no say. In other words, if they used up all the grant money and then they wouldn't come to us and say, well, what would be your priority? Well, what would you want us to do? They just pick. They just arbitrarily pick.
Sometimes. So like the county has its own transportation plan as well. So they have a ranking of high priority or low priority fixes within roads. And usually they divvy it up between like East County, West County, Central County. So sometimes if their TSP isn't calling for anything specific, sometimes they'll come to us like, hey, we have this extra funding, but it has to be on a county road. So it has to do with county road. It can't go to anything, because also when you apply for those grants, the grants are very specific. You have to list out exactly what you're using the funding for. And then if any of that money goes, say, to a city road or to help a city capital improvement project, that's outside of the terms of the grant. Usually whoever received the grant has to pay the money back because it wasn't used for what it was allotted for. So not all the time, but sometimes like, hey, we completed, is there anything within your TSP along Stark? Because that's a county road, is there anything that needs to be done along Stark in your TSP that we can use this money for? But for, say, this example with the ADA, if we don't have anything specific ADA that affects a county road, they won't ask us because it needs to be used for ADA. Compared to like, oh, we need to, like, it's quite a bit, like we'd love to do a little bit of widening or fix this right turn lane off Stark going westbound. That's not what the money is allocated for, so they can't spend it on that. So it has to be for county roads based on what they received the grant for. And that's why, like, for example, right over here, the corner here of Second and Kibling, those, ADA ramps had to be done too. And that was requirement of developers if they're doing stuff to fix those. And hey, if there's going to be a developer doing this corner right here, they should see what they did for Home Forward because they met the standards, so they should make them the same. But the county won't come and do that because those aren't county roads. Second, Kibling are city roads, or Buxton is a county road. So even though they're right one block away, they can't then just do it over here since we're doing it at the same time. That has to be on a county right away.
I thought what's interesting is I thought whenever developer developed something, all the corners, once one corner was going to be fixed, all corners have to be fixed.
I'm not entirely sure that's a public works. So I know, for example, like out here with Home Forward, when they did theirs, we had some discussions with the owner of the property, right, kitty corner, and they told them, hey, Home Forward's doing these, you need to update yours when you develop. I think it's on your property, whatever property you own, you have to do the half street improvements. So then they were saying, hey, when you do that, reach out to Home Forward and get their plans so you can just copy them. And because they met the state standards and for what they require. So I believe it's only on your property frontage. I don't believe it's, for example, if the corner over here on 250 on Buxton and Second, they're not going to be required, say it wasn't a county road. The property owners of the Highlands aren't required to then do the one where the townhomes are going in. That's on the townhomes people to do. Because then that gets pretty expensive pretty quick for a single developer. And then if someone else develops across the street, they don't have to do it. So it's usually the property owner is required for half street improvements along their frontage. But it's a better question for Public Works. I think that's right, but Public Works would know more.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I guess I'll call out one more time for public comment. Anybody online? I guess either Paul or Kevin, you've been quiet. Did you have any comments?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I have my own personal experience with all of the construction that was done on 257th. I crashed my bike twice within a period of 15 minutes because they had not properly signed the intersections and had flags in the bike lane. So the only way to go was on the sidewalk, and that was problematic. Um, so I mean, I have my own concerns. On the other hand, we're talking a lot about county roads. Troutdale, we can yell and scream and raise red flags and complain all we want, but the county has the decision on Buxton, and the county has the decision on 257th. So, we could gather all the public opinion and complaints we want, but really all those people need to be going to the county and sitting in front of the county commissioners and complaining to them when it comes to those two thoroughfares. And that's my 3 cents.
Any comments, Paul, from on your end before we move on?
No, nothing for now. Okay.
Well, I think at some point in the relatively near future, maybe we can as a group, have a chat with Erica and kind of get some insights on what on the higher levels of the planning department and their communications with the county, and go from there.
And I'll send out this document to everyone, and if everybody could go through and redline it and make comments, I'll bring it back. I'll take out everybody's, if you could send it back to me before next meeting, I'll try to add everybody's comments in, and we can discuss it one more time just to get a better, that way hopefully next time it should be a pretty simple document that we can just kind of get everybody's stamp of approval, and then that'll be if we have a situation like this again, we can use this document.
Would it be possible to have it as like a fillable form that maybe you or the person in your role could have and bring to the meeting and pop up, okay, let's fill it out right then?
It should be pretty, once we get the document finished, then it should be easy to convert to a fillable form.
Cool.
All right. Next discussion item, Main Streets on Halsey Code Audit Presentation.
Yeah.
Coda, I believe that's on you.
Alrighty, so for those of you who were at Planning Commission last month, this will look extremely familiar because it's the same presentation. So I'll share this presentation. So this is a presentation put together by our consultant, MIG or MIG, just kind of updating where we're currently at. This was given to Planning Commission last month. So this is just kind of going over where we're currently at, what we're discussing. We have since, we're going back to Planning Commission next week for one more round of discussion. So I'll go through this presentation, then I'll explain some of the edits that we've made that Planning Commission will be hearing next week, so you can hear a little early, from what we've heard feedback-wise based on our last Planning Commission work session. So we last met with the Planning Commission, again, this was from last month, back in October, and we made several changes from the feedback that we received from Planning Commission regarding our code concepts and design standards. Basically, a lot of the feedback we heard, and I'll get into more detail, really centered around building heights, especially on the north side of Halsey. Well, I guess I'm gonna go back a little bit. A little bit of background again. This is a code amendment that is for the Halsey Street corridor. We're calling it the Halsey Gateway Overlay. So this is basically an overlay district, meaning that it also overlaps with town center. So a lot of the town center design standards we're not removing or changing. It's just these are addition to. And this is for properties that are west of 257. So again, we had was that our second or third work session with Planning Commission? Second, I think, yeah. Yeah, that was our second. So we had 2 work sessions with Planning Commission. A lot of what we heard was based about height. And then that was the primary kind of pinch point, but we've also heard a lot of other positive feedback, and I'll get into that as we go along. So as a reminder, this is the section that the grant was initially for, was for the stretch of Halsey, going from 257th to 238. As we've been working through this project, we've shortened that quite a bit. So really the area and the shaded area is what will be affected by the overlay. And the reason for that is these properties are primarily zoned mixed use zones, so MU1 and MU2. Most of the properties to the west are residential, whether it's high density residential, LDR1, LDR2, or medium density residential. And then there's the McMinimans properties, which is full commercial. So really, these design standards are specific to mixed use developments. We aren't going to be rezoning the properties that are high density residential or just base residential, medium density residential, because those are residential zones. These design standards are for mixed use. So vertical mixed use specifically with commercial on the ground floor and residential on the upper floors. So it only affects these properties in this area. So what we heard in October, and then kind of what was heard again last month, were regarding taller buildings, especially on the uphill side of Halsey, due to slope and topography. Support for placing parking behind building frontages while ensuring adequate parking is provided. So rather than between the street and the building, having parking be behind the building. Interest in expanding the boundaries of the overlay in the future to other properties. We want to start with this being a little bit smaller because it's really easy just to expand it. Basically, it's just the boundaries, and that's a really easy thing to change if we want to do a code amendment in the future to eventually potentially include the Edgefield properties. But right now, we're not choosing to do so. And then provide enough space in front of the buildings for outdoor seating, for restaurants and other uses such as plazas, and easier pedestrian access to the structures themselves. So this is the overview. So we'll get into each one of these topics specifically. Residential and mixed use requirements, site design and building massing, articulation requirements, building design requirements, and height bonuses and incentives. For residential and mixed use requirements, residential uses are limited in the Halsey Gateway overlay, meaning that they're mixed use developments, so not specifically residential, but mixed use. They can be both vertical or horizontal mixed use. Vertical is the classic that you'll see with ground floor commercial, upper floor residential. Horizontal is having a specific square footage. For example, no more than 50% of a frontage can be occupied by residential. So 50% of the ground floor can be residential and 50% of the ground floor can be commercial. So that's called a horizontal mixed use. Then we'll get into site design, building massing and articulation requirements. Standards related to building size and location, pedestrian access, and facade articulation. This includes minimum and maximum setback requirements. Ensures new buildings are thoughtfully designed in relation to the public right-of-way and surrounding uses. So this is an example of, I believe this one, no, this is correct, of a minimum and maximum setback So you'll notice that parking cannot be in this area, so parking would have to be in the rear of the building. Or if it were on the side of the building, you would still have to be set back a minimum of 5 to 15 feet. And that is to allow for easier pedestrian access. We want this to be a really walkable area. That's the goal. So that's kind of when, and then 60% of the length of the ground floor facade of the building is within the maximum setback. So making sure that the whole building isn't set back like this, but that at least 60% is up front to the setback. So you're not having a large gap. Building design requirements. This guides the design of buildings in the HGO to ensure appropriate use of facades, building entrances, windows, orientation, and architectural details. Most of what's in what we're proposing is for the ground floor. And the reason being is that we already have standards in the town center for the upper floors of what design looks like, windows, things of that nature. So most of what we're doing in this is really focused around that ground floor. And then as we get into building design, that is what affects the upper floors. This regulates ground floor design. Upper floors are already existing, like I mentioned, in 8.150. And then requirements for plazas and corner features for buildings with more than one frontage. Meaning if you're on a corner lot, maybe your entrances aren't 2 on either side from each facade, but a corner entrance. And this is to have a plaza out in front, make it a little more inviting. It is kind of almost that older style of architecture. We do have one right downtown, and I just think that it kind of helps piece the downtown together with across 257. It's trying to take some of those existing features that we have and require them across 257. So these are some examples of ground floor dwelling unit designs. So these are raised entry, raised private open space, low wall or fence to separate from pedestrian or landscaping. And these are things that we typically see in ground floor designs. And again, this is for if 50% or less of a structure can have something like this if they're doing ground floor residential in that area. And then we'll get into the height bonuses and incentives. This is something that we've heard quite a lot of feedback on. And so this is the area that we made most of our changes to. The maximum height indicated in the underlying zone can be increased by an additional 15 feet if at least 4 of the menu options are provided. So this is an option for a developer. If they want to increase height, then they have to meet 4 of the 6 requirements, and that is taller ground floor, so 12 to 15 feet tall, outdoor pedestrian areas, outdoor seating, more covered, things like that. Those are the incentives that they have to provide if they want to increase. Also, when they increase, if they go through this process, like, yes, we want to increase height, and it's a type 2 application. If they want to increase height, it automatically goes to a type 3 application and goes to Planning Commission for approval. It's no longer, it won't just be a type 2, it would automatically go to Planning Commission. Also, a height step down has been added to preserve views and transition to lower density areas. So rather than a step back like we've been talking, that's also included, but a step down is as we're transitioning from a more mixed use residential area to a residential area, the building has to step down in height. It can't say someone comes in and they do 45 feet. Well, it can't go 45 feet right to that property line where then there's residential right next to it. It has to step down as it gets closer to the residential developments. And then upper stories of a building must step back an additional 10 feet if for every story over 35 feet. So 35 feet, if they want to go up to 45, the next story has to then bump back 10 feet. And then I'll show one other thing. There's a couple other things that we just got this week from our consultants. So this will be showed at Planning Commission next week. Because we had to update, we were updating some of our graphics. So see, these are some of the graphics that are a little better than that one that was showing just a bunch of build, like with the step back, with a bunch of floors. So this is a graphic showing the 10-foot step back. It's a little hard to read for every story over 35 feet. So it's 10-foot step back here, and then it continues to go up, and the building is right along the property line. This vertical line is showing where the property line is along the front. So then it steps back 10 feet and then goes up. Or sorry, this is the setback. And then it steps back here. Here is another example of if someone, this is a 10 to 12 foot first floor, and for them to increase height, so 50-foot max or 4 stories. That's another thing that we changed, because a lot of people are getting kind of, or what a lot of feedback we've heard is kind of hung up on 55 feet, a possibility of 55 or 45 feet. They think that that is 5 stories. That's not really how it is, because if you think most buildings, especially like say a full residential building, they're 10-foot or 8-foot ceilings, but there's actually 10 feet. They have to build it to 10 feet in order to allow for utilities, ducting, piping, sprinkler systems, things like that. So if you really go, plus the roof, and we measure max height if it's a pitched roof to the center line of the roof, to ground level. So if it's a pitched roof, it doesn't go to the tip top, it goes to the middle portion here. So if they want to go up to 45 feet, that's really only 3 stories, 3.5 stories. And so we added in there to make that a little clearer, we added into the code language where it's 55 feet or 4 stories max. So you can't go more than 4 stories. It's maxed out. So this is just kind of showing that where it's 4 stories, 50 feet max or 4 stories. And then it shows the step back over 35 feet because they're 10 to 12 foot floors. So it only goes up, because if you do that math, that's 40, and this is showing a flat roof. But most are pitched, and if it is flat, then it still has to go, and you still have to account for utilities and such.
I hear you repeating 55 feet or 4 stories. This is 50.
It's 50. I'm 55, I'm getting confused with, I'm just getting confused with MU3 zone.
Okay.
Where there's stuff in there, but this has nothing to do with MU3. I was just reading that section earlier for a different project.
I appreciate it.
MU3 is Confluence, right?
Confluence. It's the only site zoned. MU3 is Confluence. So we're not doing any of this in the Confluence. I was just reading some of those standards earlier just for a different situation. So my mind's just getting confused.
No worries.
So it is 50 feet.
What does the current zoning allow?
I believe it's 45 feet.
So it's only about a 5-foot difference.
I'll have to double check. It's either 35 or 45. I can check in just a second. I can check our code.
I think town center right now tops out at 35 feet.
I'll just look at our code and just, actually here, I'll just do it right now. So I can answer the question and not forget it. Let me just go to our section really quick. Bear with me while I read a little code. Here. 35. So this is, yeah, so a possible increase of 15 feet.
Is it 1 more story?
Yeah.
So why, I mean, if we want to keep the small town feel and everything, why do we have to increase the height? Why do we? What's driving, I mean.
It's not an
I don't know what Metro wants.
It's not an automatic like increase in height, and we already have some buildings in our town center that are taller. But it's just the fact that it incentivizes developers. Developers want to, research we had when we first did this project, we ended up denying, right? Research, and it's still the same research, that a developer doesn't want to do mixed use. They want to do full residential. And the reason being is because it's a lot easier to make their return on dwelling units than it is on commercial space. And so in order to incentivize, and the only way developers will build mixed use is if they can get an additional story of residential, because then they make their money back quicker. So we're saying that, hey, you can do that if you meet these criteria, provide 4 of the 6 additional criteria, and go through a type 3 application through planning commission. That's up to you. Or you can build it to the 35 feet, mixed use, 2 additional stories of residential on top, not have to go through, not have to do planning commission, and not have to do these other additional amenities. That's up to the developer. So that's why we're just allowing give the developer the option. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that way we're kind of trying to do the best of both worlds. Where instead of capping it and not having anybody want to develop it, allow for a developer to say, you know what, I'll do these things because I want to get that extra story. So that's the main reason why we're doing it, is to try to make it more developable. And that's all the market research that we've received back shows that's what developers are looking for.
So how much really, the amount, that's pretty much developed along Halsey there, most of the stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's hardly anything we're talking about. So we're talking about that 1 or 2 pieces of property that.
And then anything that redevelops in the future as well.
Yeah, but then we could, if we're feeling the need to increase the height. I just don't like the idea of the height. Go ahead.
Well,
So along that point, I know at the last meeting, I had made a hot take that there was only that one piece that we need to be concerned about, or that would be visually changing. And after a little more thought on it, Dakota, could you please put up the overlay district again for us, just so I can show everybody kind of what I'm talking about? And by the way, I don't have I'm not pro or against this. I just want to make sure everybody has the information so we can visually see what we're talking about. I don't have a bias one way or the other. But it is important that we do understand that as you're coming up, okay, all from the Hereford tract, right there in the corner of 257th and Historic Highway, as you're coming up from frontage, passing the truck stop and the outlet mall, you are coming up to the light with the Plaid Pantry. Starting from that corner all the way down to the middle of the TA truck stop, that top line there, it potentially will be the 4-story all the way along there. So visually, as you enter into Troutdale, you're going to look downtown Troutdale, 2-story buildings, 3-story buildings, a sunken former bronze gallery, the roadway, and then starting at the corner of 257th there, those buildings going all the way down to the truck stop. So it will visually change the approach, okay, but it's inevitable, it's gonna happen at some point, but nonetheless, that's something to consider. And then the second point I wish to make, and this one is a little more just concerning to me about the argument for the small town feel. Unfortunately, State Bill 974 just ripped away our ability for any of this. It guts the entire thing. Because if you get over a certain number of units, you don't have to conform to any of these standards.
Unless it's mixed use.
Unless it's mixed use, is that correct? Okay.
For strictly residential,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you for
Mixed
clarity.
use does still have to apply.
Okay. Thank you for clarity on that. That was a question.
Because I was worried about that too, so I had to read it very closely.
Oh, okay. Thanks for bringing that bit of information back. Thank you. I retract that last statement.
Shelley?
So actually, you're right, that overlay has, I kept thinking of just on Halsey. But Historic Highway has much more properties to develop.
Everything along there will be a wall of mixed use going that whole, from there all the way down to,
Okay,
truck stop.
yeah.
Like I said, I don't have a dog, I don't have a care either way, I just wanna make sure everybody understands what that means,
Right.
and what that visual will look like.
Rebecca?
Thank you. One more clarification question. You had mentioned at one point that there might be something about expanding this, and can you help clarify if my understanding is correct, that this plan, this approach could possibly be expanded to cover more land use space within the city of Troutdale, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, just along the Halsey corridor. And that's only if that's something that like planning commission in the future is like, hey, we want to make sure that we incorporate this section. Staff's just not going to go ahead and do that because we need it to be kind of brought on like, hey, maybe we should expand this down further down Halsey. Because initially the grant was for the entirety of Halsey. And after just doing some more research and looking into it, didn't really make sense for that. So we actually shortened it throughout the process because it just didn't initially, like the design standards, we're not going to put these same types of design standards on townhomes. That gets really in the weeds, gets a little more challenging. They're already there right now. They're not going anywhere for quite a while. And also they don't line up because we really wanted to focus on the mixed use side of things rather than all residential. And then if in the future, commercial, we can look into that, but that's going to be a much larger project that right now we just decided that we don't want to necessarily affect or touch the McMinimans property right now.
And at some point in the future, Edgefield may require its own overlay.
Exactly. That's a real possibility too. They may come in with a whole planned unit development or PUD to build out that section similar to like the confluence. They may want to come in and do something like that. Okay, well that's going to have a whole nother subsect of things that we have to look at, and usually PUDs have different standards. Like there's a whole PUD standard, but then they're much larger projects. So that Edgefield could come in with something like that where it's a whole planned development for the entirety of the site. And then that we'll have to cross that bridge when it comes.
Anybody?
I do have a couple more of these graphics to show. There's two more, or two more. Okay, so this is an example, and this is an extreme example, but this is just an example of, say, on this side, and I'm going to talk to Migs. I think we should rotate where this block is at to give it a better understanding. But this is showing that, say, a property were to abut, like residential property were to abut. So this box, this dotted line box, should actually be going this direction. Because this is representing the step down as it gets closer to residential. If there's residential over here, then it shows a step down. Right now, it's just they have it turned wrong, so that one actually needs to be oriented differently. And that's what it says, within 75 feet of the lot line that abuts Halsey Street, it has to be specific height standards. So that's why it says height limitations for sites north of Halsey. Oh, sorry, this is the one for north of Halsey and south of West Columbia, how it's got, you can't, within 75 feet of Halsey Street, you can't have it go above 35 feet. And the purpose is that that way you don't have tall buildings feeling like you're getting closed in. It opens it up. And then this says developments So for residential, this is what I was talking about, whereas it's a little step down, how it should be oriented differently. So those are some of the graphics. And like I said, we updated the code. Again, Planning Commission is going to get this where the code language now says 50 feet or 4 stories max. That is something that we added. And also there's actually, let me just pull up this one thing to just kind of get better. I have a lot of things.
Any questions or comments, Paul?
Yeah, actually I do. On your map, Dakota, it's everything in tan, would that be MU2?
Hold on. This is the easier way to do it. I'll just pull up our mapping system, our GIS, and I can show what properties. Share this really quick. So everything that was in tan on there that wasn't kind of that opaque green is either high density residential. So everything that's affected is either MU1 or MU2 zones. And so that the overlay really stays right along the edge of the MU2 and goes into the MU1.
Okay, well, actually my question had more to do with MU2 than where MU2 actually exists. I was looking at the table in the development code, and under MU2, in the residential section, you have just about every type of residential possibility except being permitted outright, except for manufactured home being prohibited. I thought that was not legal anymore.
It's still legal as far as I know.
You mean it's legal to prohibit?
No, I don't think we can prohibit. We just have to incentivize higher densities. We have to allow, so it's the opposite where you have to allow for high density. You can't prohibit high densities or higher densities. So mixed use, we would like not to see single family residences in a mixed use zone because the state right now, they want more density. So they'd rather see mixed use. It doesn't always work depending on the size of lots. As you know, like right down off 257 or going on Halsey, west from 257, there's some really small lots in there. If those were ever to redevelop, you can't do mixed use on those. So we need to allow for different types of uses in a mixed use zone because the lot sizes are different because there are no lot specific requirements in mixed use zones. It really depends on the use.
Anyone else?
The only question I have is, can you explain from here out for this to be adopted, what are the next steps? Is it you're here today discussing this, and then where does it go from there?
So we're here today, just gathering some feedback, and then we're going to Planning Commission next week for our final work session, and then Planning Commission in April for a recommendation of the code amendment to council, and then council in May for whether or not council wants to approve or deny the application. We have to extend our grant because this takes time, and our grant was initially supposed to be completed by now. So we're actually extending it to, I believe, June to see if we can get everything completed.
Okay, so when it goes to council, then do they have two reads on it?
Yeah, first reading and second reading.
Okay, good.
So first reading, both are public hearings.
Okay.
First reading is basically just the introduction to city council, showing them, explaining it. Second reading is when the decision is made.
Okay, very good. The only thing I was thinking is, since you've done some modifications and it's kind of complex, well, a lot of questions may arise from what you're doing. I don't know, I think it'd be nice for the council to be recommended to kind of get a pre-review before that even comes to you guys. So then they could, because one of the questions I was wondering about is when you're talking mixed use and just trying to understand economic incentives to developers for design, are they typically, I know the cost of materials has gone extremely, has been really high. So when you're doing this for the mixed use and we're kind of doing that, it's a type 4, is it type 4 if you want to go over the 50 feet? Is that correct? In height?
Type 3.
Type 3.
Type 4 is for like this code amendment is a type 4.
Okay, so is it, do you still think with this proposal that you're doing with the modification is still incentive enough to have the developer consider doing the mixed use?
I think so, and I think the reason is because if they wanna, in my opinion, it's a perfect mix of both worlds, where, okay, if you wanna go up, you need to now provide some sort of public good. And I think that's something that they're not, the public goods aren't breaking the bank necessarily, but it's really about design. It's being more creative with the design, and you can do something. You can build higher. I just don't want to see a square box. I think that's what we were trying to do as a city. We want to make it look pretty, more pedestrian friendly, walkable, and I think they can do that if they just design it in the proper way. It'll take it'll take a good architect. It'll take their architects to think about it, but that also is so the city just doesn't have just blank boxes or just wall-to-wall boxes going down a street. And we want to really kind of force the hand of the developer a little bit. We don't want to feed all the way in. We want to help. We want to incentivize them to come build here, but we also don't want them just to build anything that they want. We want them to, like, hey, if you're going to build here, you're going to make it look really nice and really provide something to the community rather than just housing.
My comment would be to possibly create a visual that's not just the lines and color, just like what you are trying to achieve and how good it can look like more realistically, or if there's some examples from other cities that Portland somewhere that they got creative and did that with high architectural standards and creative use of the space for creativity and beauty, or desirable and walkability. That would be nice, because just for me, and it was hard because this is the second time you've been discussing this, it was just hard for me to picture.
We are actually, I did ask Mig, because we do have a little bit of extra money in our grant. Okay. Like I said, we want to spend all the money we can. So I did actually reach out to them, because there is one large parcel that's currently undeveloped. They actually came to our planning commission meeting last month. And I asked Mig if they can do a schematic of what these standards would look like if someone were to develop that whole parcel. Because it's a large parcel. It's right there on the north side of Halsey, between Halsey and Historic. So it's a really large parcel there. And so I was like, hey, could you design something with these standards, basically like an architectural drawing of what that would look like. So they're currently working on that. And the hope is that we'll have that for the planning commission hearings and then the city council to give an example of, hey, this is kind of what could happen on, like, say, that really large parcel. This is what could be developed there. And because I've heard that a lot, that it is hard to discuss these things without a visual, and graphics only do so much. So having a really nice example where we're not necessarily going to add the example into our code, but an example showing people what it could potentially look like, that we heard that, and so we're working on trying to get that now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I know that there's a lot of focus on the road frontage side and the setbacks, considering that we're gonna have the north-facing side of that historical River Highway area be our welcome to Troutdale sign as people are coming to our town along there. Is there any attention paid to what that north side would look like? I know in some of your pictures where you're putting the boxes towards the back, everything gets pushed back from the street frontage. Does that mean the backside is going to be a straight wall, or will there also be considerations for aesthetics on that north-facing side?
We haven't thought too much about because like all that is, we already have those in our 8.1 standards because that's what you're going to see above that ground floor. And also that ground floor is going to encompass on the backside the parking, especially like off of those northern properties. So ideally, you won't notice the parking because you're coming up. It's going to be at a visual where you're not really going to notice. And then we have the aesthetics that we already have in our 8.1 for all the upper floors on that section. And we haven't looked in too much into that because it is abutting the railroad. So the real thing is like we are trying to, we don't want to take anybody's view of the river. But really, if you're thinking about where you stand over there, you don't see the river, you see the railroad. The river's up actually a little ways out, so nothing's going to be high enough for you to lose the view of the river. You're only going to lose the view of the railroad in the industrial area. But coming up the hill, we're really holding on to those design standards in 8.1 for how much of the wall has to be glass, materials that have to be used, things like that.
And that'll still be on both sides.
That's still
not just a frontage side.
Exactly. That's for the entirety of the building. And lastly, this is just an example. This is basically something I'll be writing in the staff report, and also just a good example of showing what it means by 4 stories or 50 feet. Because ground floor, this is 12 to 15, but 10 to 12 feet, you have 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. That you can't get another story up here, even if you were to go up to 50 feet. It's just not possible. So that's why we capped it at 4 feet. Or 4 stories, 50 feet, 4 stories. And this even kind of shows a little bit of this is not an exact scale. This is something that we kind of drew up ourselves. We didn't use our consultants. Just as a quick visual showing where this is what a step back could look like of the building front. And then shows the distances between floors and why 50 feet doesn't mean 5 stories. It means 4. And that's why we just added it in there to be more specific as well. Any other questions? And again, Planning Commission will be hearing this again next week. Meg will be with us, so everybody's welcome to attend or listen afterwards. But we will also be going to Planning Commission with this again next week for a work session. And hopefully move forward from there with the rest of the amendment package.
All right. There is no other question or comment on that. We can move on to item 4D, planning a town hall. We've talked about that at multiple meetings, but I think we started talking in earnest at the previous meeting about what and when we possibly want to put a town hall together for community communication and feedback. So, what are your thoughts?
If I may suggest to the group, we kind of get an idea of a timeline on this, and if we're thinking it's going to happen soon, let's maybe burn the midnight oil and get it done. If we think it might be a later in the year thing, maybe we consider getting some basic thoughts on the table and tabling the full discussion until next month, just in the interest of time.
Personally, I don't think anything we start now would conceivably happen before May, and even that, correct me if I'm wrong, but even that I think would be wonderfully optimistic. But what are people thinking as far as a general win?
I think putting it on the agenda first for next time, so while we're fresh and everybody's invigorated and tired.
I'm good
We
with
can
that.
talk about.
If we want to kick this down a month, I'm happy with that.
I agree, and I'd love to give us all a little homework, maybe we can like kind of look and bring like other events that are already happening so that we can make sure that we don't cross, you know what I mean? That we don't put ours at the same time period as that. That'll help us finalize the time.
Yeah, because timing is definitely important, because I know my recollection from a recent city council meeting is regarding the Troutdale Arts Festival. They're specifically talking about separating the Arts Festival from First Friday because of some confusion that co-location caused. So yeah, timing is definitely going to be a consideration. So yeah, I encourage everyone to get some ideas together, do some brainstorming, both the what and the when, and come back next month. So with that, I think we can move on to staff communications.
All right. So I was writing a couple notes. Okay. So we've been pretty busy, and Planning Commission is about to be very busy over the next several months. So I'll just start off with what's coming up the next week's Planning Commission. We have a conditional use permit for a childcare facility going in off 257th, right by the school there. That's going to Planning Commission next month or next week. We also have our final work session for Main Streets on Halsey. Also, there will be an update on the 257th pedestrian and bike bridge concept planning project. Erica will be giving an update on that. And then also we have an update on the Economic Opportunities Analysis Project. This is a grant that we received. This is the first step of many steps for us to then update our comprehensive plan. So we need to do this. We also have to do a housing needs analysis. And each one of these take roughly a year to do. So that's why it's called long range planning. It usually takes about 5 years to update a comprehensive plan. And we're just starting the first step now. We actually have our first kickoff meeting at the end of this month. So myself and Erica will be kind of leading this project, and also with some assistance from Nick as well, just because this is going to be it's a lot of work. And we're a small team, so it's kind of all hands on deck. In April, for Planning Commission, we only have the one thing as of right now, which is the recommendation for the code amendment for the Halsey Street project. But then we are also going to be having a special meeting in April for Planning Commission for 2 more projects. One conditional use for a coffee roaster to be going into downtown. That is for Dakota Coffee. So they would like to come in. It's close. So they'd like to come in also for a sign variance for the York Terrace. So I'm sure many of you have noticed, but they're requesting a sign variance for the sign that they built.
What does that mean?
So basically, there's currently a monument sign that was constructed without permits. And monument signs are not permitted in the town center area. So they're requesting a variance to code standards to see if they can have the sign be a permitted sign. So that goes to Planning Commission.
Where is that one at?
Is it already up, or have they?
Well, and is it going to cover both of the monument signs?
So those other monument signs are considered wayfinding signs. They're smaller, and so those are exempt from sign permit, sign code. And
just the big one.
Just this big one. I do appreciate that they built it to residential design standards. but it's not permitted in this zone. So they're requesting a variance, and so that'll be going also to the special meeting at the end of April. We currently just had a pre-application meeting for the vacant lot in downtown. The one that's right downtown, surrounded by chain link fence. So that's going to be, that was a very long meeting that Nick had. I wasn't in it, so I don't have all the details. But I do know that it's going to be kind of a very much of a mixed use open space concept. With potential for a stage. We also have another band for First Fridays, potential for, there's also gonna be bathrooms, maybe some saunas, I heard, something like that. So they just went through, it's a lot of steps, there's a lot of different things they're throwing out right now. They want it to be a mixture of a communal space, but also be used primarily for the hotel that's going in across the street as an amenity to the hotel. So that just came in, we have no permits yet, they just had that meeting last week. I'm trying to see if there's any. I heard someone mention the Highland food cart expansion. They did submit, it was deemed incomplete. So we're waiting on some more documents from them. That is a type 1 application. It's a modification to an already approved site plan. So that one is still waiting on a couple of things there. And then, see, I know we have a couple other grants right now. Eric is going out for a grant for some murals to be going in. I can't remember the group she's trying to team up with, but also it's involving the high school to get them more involved. So Imagination Station, the internal part of the bathroom to be painted in a mural with the students involved. And I believe there was another one as well. I also did ask Erica about the bulletin boards, and she's double checking with Jonah on that because I believe that kind of stalled out a little bit. And so there was some gusto, and then it kind of pittered out a little bit as other things came up. So she is going to check with Jonah on that project. The fire grant that's been mainly focused in the Palisades neighborhood. I know that Nick and Erica are potentially planning another cleanup this spring. We're getting close to the end of that grant. They're currently working on wayfinding evacuation signs that Nick's been working on. And then I can't remember, he just finished a community outreach plan, but I can't remember what grant that was for because he's working on another grant as well. Is that it? We've been very busy lately, so we have a lot of stuff coming in kind of all at once. There's potential for another conditional use application that'll be coming in May to Planning Commission. Still talking with the applicant, see if that's the route they want to go. So yeah, any questions?
Where would that coffee place be?
I can't remember the exact address, but it's right at the end here. I believe they're taking over. It's right next to Troutdale.
Artistry?
Yes.
Artistry building?
Yeah. So they were planning on going in there.
I have a question. Do you have any updates on the old city hall? Like, are they gonna turn it into a restaurant? Is it just stopped?
I asked, we didn't have our planning meeting today because Eric was in the middle of submitting for another grant. So we didn't have our planning meeting, but that was a question that I was going to ask. Last I heard, they're still building. They're still planning on building it out, but I don't believe there was talk about a pretty notable chef wanting to move in there, but I don't think that they're involved anymore. So it's moving at slower than a snail's pace. I do know that, but they're still working on it. I just haven't heard any updates.
Any update on the 3rd Street apartments? They came in, they were gonna redo them from the townhomes, and they were gonna do like an 8.
Oh, the ones that are right.
Yeah, right here.
Right here. So they're still
2nd Street.
2nd Street, yeah. So the 2nd Street townhomes. So there's 2 townhome sets, so 4 total with a duplex in the back. They're still currently working on construction. I think they're just got some stuff with building permits.
I'm sorry, I'm confused about the wrong one. You mentioned at a previous meeting that in that area next to City Hall, come up from City Hall and it's already just out.
Yeah, we had our pre-app. I I have not received any, anything since the
Application.
Yeah, no application or anything that's coming. So we'll see what they decide to do. I think there's a lot of things they kind of have to figure out. Most importantly, there's a sewer line that runs right through it, so they have to move that.
Oh, wow.
And so they need to, where they want to move it to, it's a private road, so they need to talk to the private owners, they can tear it up. So they need to figure that stuff out, I think, before they even get close to an application. So they have some things to work through, but I haven't heard anything since then. We did just receive for another project, same owners, the final plat process for the townhomes that are supposed to be going off of 5th, I believe. But that's just a final plat process.
Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, finish.
You mentioned the economic opportunities analysis earlier. I don't know if you're working with Erica on that.
I will be, yeah.
I just responded to her email and I wanted to apologize that I let that one slip. It was sent out on the 20th and now here we are the 4th and I'm just responding, so I feel like an idiot. But I apologize and let you know I did respond to that today.
I think she's been slammed.
Okay, great.
I had to borrow Nick's charger because she was in a meeting so long, they had to get it. I can't remember which grant they're going for right now. She briefly mentioned it, but they had to get it submitted by 5 o'clock today because it's a state federal type grant. So they need to get it to the state office before 5 o'clock and her computer was dying. She couldn't, so she came and stole my charger because she's like, I don't know where mine's at. So she's been kind of like that. She's been working, she's being pulled in a lot of directions right now. So I'm sure she's okay.
And then one last comment, I don't know, it's kind of for you as well, but I received an email that March 10th, we're supposed to go. Do you have any more information on that?
I was gonna get to that.
Okay.
In just a moment, so hold that thought. Twyla?
Yes, any updates on the Safeway, that was gonna be the Move Fitness?
Yes.
That was gonna be the new gym?
Yes, so last month at Planning Commission, they received approval for the Crunch Fitness, received a conditional use approval to move in there. They currently are working through their building permit process. I don't believe they've started anything yet. I think they're just doing the building permit right now. Nothing's been submitted, so they haven't started any sort of construction yet. But I know they are currently moving forward. They do have their approval. So hopefully, if they can get their permits all done with building, there should be a Crunch Fitness moving in there.
No pool.
No pool.
All right, we just need a good gym.
And I guess the last thing I will mention, unless you want to cover it, I was just going to mention whose terms are.
I was gonna get to that.
Okay, then I'll let you handle that.
All right.
Yeah, then that's it. If anyone else has any questions, I'll pass it on back.
So I guess a couple real quick things before we do the rounds on committee comments. We do have at council's request on March 10th, we do have all the chairs have been asked to come in and give a 5-ish minute rundown of what we've been doing. So if anybody has any specific highlights that you want me to cover in that little five-ish minute spiel, please let me know. From our minutes and agendas for over the last year, I can grab most of the high points. 5 minutes is not that long. But yeah, if there's any highlights that you all want me to cover, please let me know. Also, there are 4 of us on the CAC whose terms are expiring this year. It is myself and Twyla and Kevin and Tiffany. So everybody, the 4 of us should be expecting letters with an application encouraging us to reapply for our volunteer positions. The more functional problem with that is normally as chair, I would be sitting on the selection committee, but since my term is up, I can't. So I would ask our vice chair if you would be willing to sit on that selection committee in my stead.
Sure.
So I'll let Erica know, or actually, I think it's Sarah. That I have to reach out for that. Thank you. And I think those were the three things that I needed to throw out there. So as we'll go.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you know how that came about? Was that at a recent, as far as coming in to give a presentation, was that just like kind of randomly asked this last week, or was it at a city council meeting?
At either the last or a recent city council meeting, Councilor Allen specifically requested updates from all of the committees, just so that city council could get an idea of what people are doing and to possibly give feedback for direction from council. I mean, that's my sort of.
First meeting in March, thank you. Was it near the beginning, middle, end, you know?
End, because it was.
Yeah, it was during council comments, so.
I think Mike really seconded it. I mean, like, he doesn't really know anybody yet. He's a new city manager, and so he really liked that idea. So I think it.
I just am the type of person that likes to understand the vibe of the.
It's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of a bummer because there's several of us committees that don't get to talk to our committee before that meeting on the 10th. And so we're going into it kind of blind. I mean, like you said, we all have our notes and things like that, but it's kind of like, well, I kind of would have wanted to talk to my group, like you guys got the chance to, but there's only what, three that meet before the 10th? 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think from when that request went out, I think it was just HLC.
It went out after all the meetings.
HLC, CAC, and.
It went out after all. I looked at that today. I almost called Mike and said, could we consider pushing it? But they're not having a second meeting in March, and that pushes it past, it would push it into April. But I mean, it's just a general 5-minute rundown, so I have to do it too.
Nothing super complicated. And my impression is it's honestly, it's both just a little touch point for the chairs to report to council, and then just to get a blessing from council that we're not completely off our rockers.
Maybe if this is something that the group doesn't want to be involved with, maybe you and I could ask, but I have a question regarding public meeting laws and doing that same sort of thing. How do we contact our group and maybe like, hey, over the next week, send us anything? Do we have to send individual emails probably, or groups of no more than 3 or something like that?
So basically, and this is how we do it. Whenever we email out, you'll notice that it just comes from me, but everybody's BCC'd.
Okay.
So that's just really so that way not everybody can respond at once. So then you don't have quorum discussing something. So basically you have to BCC.
Okay.
Or you can reach out individually depending on how large the group is. I think we do have the largest committee with 11 on our committee. But yeah.
See the PAC.
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. That really puts that off my mind.
We'll do a quick roundtable on committee member comments. We lost Kevin, so just start with Twyla.
All right, thank you. No comments? Good meeting.
Becca?
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you, Chair, for representing us at this presentation to the City Council and City. Thank you. And
Don't say thank you until you hear what I have to say.
let me rephrase. I have the utmost confidence in you and want to thank you for representing us.
Will?
Not too much, other than I hope our teammates that are up for renewal decide to renew with us. And see everybody next month.
During the windstorms that we had, the bulletin board at Sunrise, the door got blown off because the wind tore the door off because the lock wasn't working, and it has been replaced. And I have taken the initiative to put information about all the meetings that are happening on a monthly basis on that bulletin board. I even made a little red arrow and I put this week, and I change it every week. so that people know what meetings are happening here. Because I know one of our goals is to inform the community of what's going on, and I would love to see that happen throughout. Like, if you live in Sandy Palisades right now, maybe you could take the initiative bugging Jonah, who's the person who has the keys to those. I finally got my hands on the key to Sunrise because I'm there all the time. And the only other one we really have is in Sandy Palisades. So Sandy Palisades bulletin board is really big. It could get an entire copy of the Champion front and back, which has the days that all the meetings are and has the information. And since the Champion is so far apart, it would be good to have it. I mean, I know there's copies available at Public Works. There's copies available downtown at City Hall, but it would be nice to have it posted in one of these places because we lose them. You know, it comes, we read it, we set it down, but it's got stuff that's happening 4 months in the future. So I would love to see that happen. Somebody put something up at Sandy Palisades, because I did see, I took a picture of it too. There was a guy, he was reading it, and he even took a picture of it. And so I was like, yes, it's working. I'm letting people know what's going on, because that's a passion of mine. And when we're coming back next month and doing a little bit of homework, we talked about this at our last meeting. Can we suggest content? I believe you brought it up for the Facebook page or the Instagram page. And we talked about maybe like a did you know? If there's something you know about Troutdale that you want the citizens to know about, if we could like maybe make a list of those and then send it to Kevin and say, hey, can we make did you know videos? And if any of us are willing to be in the videos, let him know that, and maybe just like shoot an idea to him. Like, did you know 2 of us could be talking? Gosh, I wish I could talk to the city council about something. Who knows about these streets? And then, oh, well, you can. Type of like, did you know? Like the little star and the thing or something. Because these short videos are things that people watch because it pops up in their feed. And it's not just a picture, but it's like people talking, and it brings you in and it shares information. And I would love if we could come up with a couple of those that we could send off to him to try to give him ideas of things to put on the website. Just a suggestion. And I think that's it from me.
Chris?
Yeah, the more you know.
Yeah, it's more you know. Is it the more you know?
Yes,
Did
the
you
more-
know, the more you know?
The more you know, yeah.
It can be.
Back to the 80s.
Oh, reading Rainbow, right?
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, as I don't have anything either constructive or witty to say, I guess I'll just say thank you all and see you all in April.
Shelby?
Great meeting, everybody. I did have a point, though, maybe for Dakota. Maybe in addition to Erica, maybe we could find out if there's any communication that actually Travis gets, right? Public Works guy. If he gets anything occasionally from the county, just to learn if he ever communicates with him. Maybe not on a regular basis, but if he does have communications, that'd be interesting to know too. So, otherwise, thanks. See y'all in April.
Dan?
And thanks everyone for a good meeting. I want to point out our parking issues again. I went to the hair salon at Sage, and she said, I think their manicurist had to drive around for 20 minutes to find, well, she came 20 minutes late for her appointment. And so that brought me to discuss about what's going on with the building on 201 West Historic Columbia River Highway, that big building that is sunk in. Okay, and I'm sad to see that they roped off the section that as soon as you go down the hill, then I guess it's, since Miss Gretchen has passed away, I don't know if it's her daughter, I don't know who's in control of it or whatever, and then it just makes me hope that the city may be able to acquire that property. Again, we've already discussed channels and stuff like that, but they used to send their clients to park down there, and that's not available to them anymore. I didn't see that they blocked off the bigger section at this time, but I was wondering if there was any communication with who is in charge of it or inherited or the property at this time, and if we are considering at least being allowed to use the parking or what the situation is going on with that property. That's a concern of mine. And the other thing is, we're keeping an eye out on the smelt. The cowlets got to fish for a while. Some native came over and wanted to borrow one of our nets so he could fish on the cowlets, because the natives don't have to adhere to the regulations and the rules that we have to. And then, so they did come in a little bit closer to us, and the last that I could see was that once they are seen visible in the Sandy River, then they will make that determination at that time. They're throwing out an idea, concept of maybe, I heard afternoon, so it'd be kind of a short one day, or if they deem it enough and open if they decide to do so. But we're still looking, so far no smelt.
Julia?
I was glad to see on Facebook they had the recruiting out already for committees. And a big important issue of fire and police that you can keep up with what's going on. And also on Multnomah County, since they're doing our Stark Street Bridge, I can get the grant. We might want to keep on top of that, make our public comment, okay? They are taking suggestions right now. You have to email them. That's it.
All right. With that, I will, if there's no one else,
Do you have any comments?
no, I've pretty much covered all of mine. I talk too much as it is. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, everybody.